Welcome everyone to MJ Hobby Corner. This is On the Workbench. This is a series that is divided into two parts. Beginning of the month episode deals with terrain, all kinds of terrain and scenery and that kind of stuff. And then part two, which is usually towards the end of a month, the last week or so, that deals with something a little more specialized. I show how I make proxy models and for various games, and this could include vehicles, starships, whatever comes to mind. And the material that we specialize in for this particular episode is foam. So this is the Foam Crafter series for the larger On the Workbench. Okay, so just to clarify that, when I first started the channel 3 years ago, my brand became that I would use recycled materials whenever possible. These are the trays that you find, when you buy meats or vegetables or whatever. They come with these trays. I washed these out, and over the years I found many uses for these trays, including as painting trays and all this, mixing trays and all that. So I've amassed quite a few, but they're also excellent foam for building stuff, for making buildings, for making vehicles, starships, whatever it is. So for me, I have nothing against buying foam. I used to buy my foam to make my starships in the beginning. I would use those poster boards, take out the O-tag material or whatever card material was sandwiching the foam, and then I use the middle layer, which is the foam, and just use that and cut it up. And that foam is usually very dense and pretty good. But I already paid for this stuff. I paid for it when I buy my, my meat product or whatever it is. So why not recycle the tray and then make some vehicles out of it as well? I'll get more for my money, right? Okay, so here is a small collection that I want to show of foam vehicles, and we will go over these in very brief detail. And here is a Lehman Russ, okay, and this is done with that recycled foam and moving turret, very simple to do. We have a Dark Angels Rhino, which I made a couple of years back, okay, so that is done with this foam as well. And then we have a nice Land Raider. This has an opening hatch. It also has moving guns. Okay, the las cannons, all that stuff moves. And that's also not difficult to do. We have a small collection of World War I vehicles, and these are not historically accurate. But this is a Mark IV British tank. We have a French Renault. Okay. And again, this is not done for accuracy. This is more for like alternate history and fictitious gaming. And then we have a Chamond. Okay, so again, these are the easiest tanks to make. And these are a great way to start because you don't have to deal with complex shapes. Okay, this is the smallest scale that I've ever worked with. And this is a little dreadnought made out of this foam, like a Blood Angels dreadnought. And here is one of those whirlwinds for 40K. 40K is very popular, so for anyone that wants to build little 40K proxies, this foam works very well. And here's formerly known as Eldar. We use these in one-page rules to play, and this is an elf ship. And here is a little Eldar walker, well, elf walker, and I'm going to be improving the legs on these. But these are very small and require a little bit more precision, a little bit more work. But I have a ton of these, 2 complete armies. Now, it is possible to make creatures. Here's a highly experimental Tyrannid that used this kind of recycled foam, and also used pipe cleaners, burning the pipe cleaners to produce this creature. Let's go to the craft bench and show you a little bit of what's possible with this recycled foam. Now the next step is to get some inspirational material, and I have had this book for a long time, so I use it to get like ideas and get pictures and names of things, and then I can look them up online and get more views. I want something like this, something that may be amphibious, but like a personnel carrier. And of course, it's not going to be exact. In fact, I may change things to make it look a little bit more sci-fi. Who knows? We'll see. And but I think this is a good place to start. So I'm going to look for some photos online using the name and see if I could get like a top view or something. And this was the other possibility. This is a cool one, actually. But I think I'm going to settle for this one for now, because I've never built something like this. So it'll be a good, interesting thing to do. Okay, let's go over some tools and then go over the material itself, the foam. So first things first, I like to use this kitchen knife, serrated kitchen knife, has been excellent for just cutting the foam, because the first thing I do is I cut little squares of foam, rectangles of foam. And so this has become a great little foam cutter, but you could just use an X-Acto knife, and a lot of this building will rely very heavily on X-Acto blades. Make sure it's sharp. And then this is a foam cutter that I bought many years ago. It's useful. It has a nifty little handle and another blade. But you don't really need to go out and purchase this stuff. You don't really. It's useful, especially for large pieces of foam, but you don't really need this. I'm just kind of showing it. You will need, however, emery boards. I like to use. This is some filing material as well, so some filing paper. You definitely need filing material. That's going to be very important. And then we also need a pencil, okay? Need a pencil, because this technique relies on scoring your details. And last but not least, we use hot glue. And sometimes I like to add, with some of the smaller pieces, I use tacky glue. Okay, so your foam trays, they're not all created equal. Some of these are thicker than others. It depends on the tray you get. But the first thing I do is take out a rectangle, and then I save these parts, because these parts get used in other projects. But basically, I get these rectangles, sheets of foam, and this is where I work most of my parts. Now, this is a thinner piece of foam, and this is very useful. This came out of this kind of like restaurant foam container, and I used a piece of this. This is very good for adding small, shallow details to the miniature. So we're definitely going to use this for the detail phase later. Okay, so next I've decided to make my vehicle from profile view first, and we'll make like a little box. So what I did is I made a little template out of this plastic, see-through plastic. And basically I put the image on my phone, and then I sighted on one of these buttons, since they're going to be the wheels, and zoomed in on the image based on the size of the button. So when the wheel of the image covered my button, that's when I started tracing. Okay, so again, very quick and dirty. This is not the correct way. It's not, it's just my way. And so now, once I traced my template onto the foam, I used the buttons to then generate the rest of the image. Because these are going to be the wheels, we can trace there. So when cutting this foam, I generally recommend doing like I did all these cuts, kind of doing a rectangle around the piece, and then dealing with all these little extra angles. So here is my piece, my first piece. Now to cut these round pieces, I'm using the very tip of the X-Acto blade very carefully, because that's the only way to be able to kind of go around. So it's the very tip of the X-Acto blade, making sure it's nice and sharp, and that's how I get this cut. Okay, so we've traced my templates. Notice that I traced a third one. I'm going to save that for a second vehicle. That'll be the template for a second vehicle, and we have the other half here. So I'm going to cut these out, and then we're going to file these together and save this piece for a future vehicle. So now I have glued all my layers together, and this model is going to take 4 copies of this. And of course I still keep one as a template, but now everything is just filing, and it's a lot easier to shape and file when everything is glued together. Okay, so now the disadvantage with this kind of layering is all these lines here. We're going to deal with that in just a second. But for now, I'm just going to shape things, make sure everything is the shape that I want it. And as you can see, I switch my files going from emery board to, you know, the tougher sander, depending on what I want to do. And here, we're going to have to file this to give it an angle. Okay, so it's not so boxy. We could leave it boxy if we wanted to. Okay, and to prepare for the wheels later, I take from the cut pieces, these things that were left over, so we want to save those, and I cut, just glued them to the center of the hull as best as possible, and then with my file, just made sure that they were straight. Next, I glued my vehicle upside down to the thinner sheets of card, and just angle the pencil and trace the hull, and now we cut, and then we're going to file and straighten everything up. Alright, so I added some serial card to the areas of the foam that didn't look as good. And now I just take my file and make sure that I blend everything in with the foam, file the card. Okay, and so this will be a card foam hybrid, and then we can continue on the details. We're going to need a hatch back here. I'm going to do that with card, and yeah, that's it. On its way. Okay, so I'm preparing my wheels now, and I use a hot soldering iron, and very carefully, by holding the button with my pliers, making sure we use pliers now. You don't want to hold the button and be using this, because you can burn yourself really seriously. I don't want to sound like I'm lecturing, but I do have to say that please be mindful of all safety precautions when using tools like this, and if you don't feel comfortable about using a particular tool that's shown, don't use it. Try something else. Okay, try a Dremel and maybe drill in with a Dremel or something. Okay, so the wheels are prepared and ready to be glued on, and I just put a little bit of Procreate right in the center, but as you can see, the holes are still a little bit visible. That's how I like it. But you can also just cover the whole, make a larger like hubcap type of deal. You can use milliput, you can use green stuff, you can use whatever you want on that. It doesn't have to. You can even use bits of cardboard, really. So I'm going to glue my wheels now. Okay, and now the APC has wheels. Need to let things dry a little bit, and for the bottom I use white glue. I use a little bit of hot glue to hold the wheel while the white glue dries. Don't use any like model glue like cyanoacrylates, because they will melt foam. So I'm going to let this dry a little bit, and then we'll finish up the details. So to begin the cabin of the vehicle, I take a very thin piece of foam, okay, and a little rectangle of foam, and just glue it on there with white glue. So that means that I have to let this dry a little bit, and then with a pencil we can score in the rest of the details, and that'll make the front cabin. Now for the hatch, the front command hatch, I use a button and then a little bit of Procreate, and then just do a little bit of detail there. It's a little off-centered, but it's not bad. Alright, so the vehicle is about finished. Now we need the weapon here, the turret, but I added quite a few details. I did a little bit of scoring, as you can see, but in addition to the scoring, I will sometimes add three-dimensional details just to boost the textures and details a little bit. It's a little thin, and that's okay. That's kind of what I wanted. And basically here I added another piece that's not part of the original model, and we have like a little hatch back there. Now the last thing before I make the turret and add the turret is this back hatch that goes glued right there, and that's where the troops come out. All right, and let me show you what I did to finish this vehicle. First and foremost, we have little bits of rectangular pieces of foam that I cut with the X-Acto knife. This is magnetized. Now, I don't use earth magnets, not because I'm on a crusade against earth magnets. I have nothing against earth magnets, but they are expensive. And so when on a low budget, very low budget, I use these Walmart. I buy these at dollar stores and Walmart. They come in packages and they're very inexpensive magnets. I can also cut these and trim these and make them smaller. But they work well for this process, and they add a little bit of weight to the vehicle, which is good. Okay, so for the turret, these are the shapes that I used. Okay, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 parts, 4 foam parts to the turret. There's a cocktail stick, and then little bits of Procreate clay that I use to kind of fill in, you know, here the hatch. This is a button. The base of the hatch is a button, and then I just put the Procreate over it. The ammunition drum was a piece of foam that remained from cutting the shape here for the wheels. So I used a paper fastener, and this really was the easiest and best way to do it. And then we also used some one little glass bead. I have these in the studio because they've become very useful. This is for necklace making from Walmart. And now I'm just going to show you how I did the clay. Okay, so basically I put 4 little tiny oval pieces of clay. Make sure that I'm on camera too. And then what I do is in between the round spaces, I stick my little cocktail stick. So I'm sticking the cocktail stick in there. Okay. And then just kind of flatten them a little bit. Give a very rough kind of propeller look. Okay, so then I embed my glass bead, and I am sorry of the motion, and just gently embed it into the clay, and then continue to do a little bit of shaping. So I'm going to save this piece for the other APC, the other amphibious APC, and there you go. Okay, and so there's the propeller back there, and that is a cool little detail to have since it is amphibious. And there we go. In order to cover up some of the fuzziness that may appear on some edges of the vehicle, and it may be a little bit unsightly, I use the cardboard, or card really, that I peel out of corrugated cardboard. I save these now, these little bits of these strips of peeled away corrugation, and I cut small strips and just line my edges, and now I just paint it, and that helps reduce like the cover up the fuzziness of some of those edges. Well, here is the finished product, my friends and fellow crafters and viewers. I hope that you enjoyed this craft. This shows just how versatile foam can be as a building material, and this model is very, very sturdy. I do recommend the little cardboard lining across any of the fuzzy areas of the model. It will really enhance that is one of the disadvantages of working with foam, is you do get areas that when you file, the foam becomes fuzzy, and that it doesn't look good. on the finished product. So usually I do cover that with a little bit of card, and it works great. You know, it covers that up, and then you're good to go. I love working with foam. Basically, it's very easy to shape. You're shaping mostly with your file. Now here, this is a cardboard tank that I made a year ago. Not a bad piece, and I love working with cardboard as well. We're going to talk about tracked vehicles in the future because they change things a little bit, okay? But yeah, cardboard has the disadvantage that you have to start everything from scratch, which is fine. You know, you really have a lot of control in your shapes when you're working with cardboard. With these models, you're basically layering your foam and creating the shapes you want, and then just doing a lot of filing. So they both have advantages and disadvantages to them. And we will talk about materials other than foam in the future, okay? I build models out of many different materials. So for now, we will continue with foam crafting, and you guys can see examples of more and more vehicles, and I will update in Scratch Builder monthly if I make any weapons, because this is interchangeable, and I do like the way it looks without the weapons. I really do. But we will be making more weapons, and those projects will occur in Scratch Builder monthly, okay? And I will finish the waterline model as well, and you guys can get an update on it. All right, my friends, and thank you very much to my patrons who are supporters of my work. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you for to all our subs here on the YouTube channel for your support, and to everyone who has supported us on Wargames Vault. It actually did very well this month, so thank you very much for purchasing Scratch Builder monthly. It really helps my work and the channel. All right, folks, I'll see you in the next foam craft, and the next video is going to be on the Workbench Terrain series, and we have a lot of terrain coming as well. So stay tuned.